So, hello everyone. Welcome to the first event in our lockdown coach education program. We felt as a website it's really important to try and connect our members together and give coaches different insights into different areas of the game. And so over the next few weeks, we're aiming to run one event a week. Next week we've got two events. We've got Matt Boyle from Hamilton Academical in Scotland around lockdown coaching, and we've also got Louis Lancaster presenting as well. So they are on Wednesday and Friday next week, and details will be sent out at the end of this week. And hopefully you can join us on them too as well. Of course, always free to the DNA community members. So I'm delighted to have Dean with us this evening. He's going to talk around youth development phase coaching and in coaching really in general as well. So over to you, Dean, and maybe you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for everyone for joining me. Obviously, Dean Harding. I've been in the US now for just under 3 years. So, just obviously here to help you guys and obviously learn from all you as well. So if you've got any questions, any feedback, obviously I'm very open to that. So and hopefully, we kind of help each other to learn some stuff today. So, as I move on. Yep. So just going to go through some personal experience. I think like a lot of us, we started as a grassroots coach back in 2000. And then went to a semi-professional club, Brentwood Town, between 2009, 2014, where I was kind of heading the kind of youth development on a part-time basis. I was still pretty young in my kind of early coaching career. I then, alongside that, went to work at a local regional development centre at Charlton Athletic, which was based in Essex. And from there, the kind of kids went from our kind of regional development centre over to Sparrows Lane at Charlton. I then was kind of picked up by Dagenham Redbridge. I think at the time were just going promoted into the League Two. And we're putting together some kind of youth academy structure in place. So I was there on a kind of part-time, full-time basis under some great coaches like Wayne Burnett, who's obviously at Tottenham now. Chris Perry's at Millwall. And then from there, I went to West Ham, where I worked predominantly around the under 12 to under 14s. And then from there, I was kind of headhunted to go to Arsenal between 2014 and 17. And since the end of really when Wenger left, I moved across here to the United States to be a director of coaching for a large previous DA club, Development Academy club, but now large travel soccer club here in Chicago. So culturally, the difference between USA and the UK is very, very different. I would say that the kind of mentality here is win at all costs. There's definitely a lot more emphasis on the result rather than development. So I've been really hard over the last 2.5 years or 3 years trying to change the mindset of the kids, but more importantly the parents, because as you well know, you only get to see a small percentage of these kids a week, and majority of the time they're spent with their parents. So qualifications wise, obviously UEFA A, UEFA B. I managed to pass my USB license last year, and I've completed all the advanced youth modules, and I have a degree in a sports science that I completed when I was a YTS at Southend many moons ago. So, and obviously just looking at my personal experience, I think the first kind of point that I would say is obviously I'm 21 years in, which sounds a hell of a long time, but it's actually gone so quickly. Looking back, when I look at back in 2000 when I started coaching, and once I left kind of pro soccer at Southend and then went straight into grassroots coaching, I think at that point I wanted to be a first team manager. My aspirations was to do that. Since then and many years down the line, I've kind of changed that mindset now, and there's a few kind of different reasons for that, I would say. First of all, it's the people that you work with. You kind of get a sense of, understanding and being around different people that have had different experiences and different journeys to yourself. I would say working at the kind of top end, as I did at a couple of these clubs here around the first team, it comes a lot more cutthroat in terms of the result is massively important. And that over the kind of development of a young player, a boy or girl, that may take a bit more time. Obviously, you're dealing with different types of players. So I think my point is that I'm at my stage now in my kind of career where I deem myself, my mindset's changed since I've done in 2000, where now I think that my niche, where I'm most powerful at, is working around that kind of age group between kind of 12, 13 up to that kind of 16 and 18. And hopefully we'll go into a bit more detail now. So why do I coach? As I've previously mentioned, I believe that when I played, I had a reasonably good understanding of the game. I deem myself as a failure of the system. So I was at Arsenal as a kid, got released, ended up at Southend on a YT and first year pro. And again, never really fulfilled my potential. So again, I know the game kind of looks like there's a lot of, or it seems like there's a lot of like ex-professionals, top professionals that are kind of getting all these kind of top jobs now. But I think it's also mindful that, whatever kind of experience you've had in the past with soccer or football, and I will say soccer, apologies because of the USA. I think, it's just mindful of your journey. As I say, if I look back when I was 14, 15 years old to what I am now, I certainly wouldn't have done or got up to what I did back then. So I think I'm good at transitions between here, which is 77, 99 into the 11v11. And that's purely down to space. And again, that relates back to the kind of game understanding. I think at kind of the youth development phase, we begin or should begin to, yes, of course, rotate players around different positions. But really, if you're working at the kind of top end academy level, you're beginning to say, okay, this player's going to play in these 2 or 3 positions, unless obviously they're a kind of goalkeeper. I myself understand the players in terms of understanding what the player needs to enhance his skills or to develop a skill. And then obviously I deem myself as a kind of a coach that can understand what that player needs in terms of, do they need TLC? Do they need some kind of, coaching command, a little bit more tough love, I would say. So for me, what are the main objectives? And a little bit later, in a couple more slides, we're going to go into a bit more detail of me planning a session and what that looks like. I'm also myself kind of looking at different ways to expand the kind of coaching mindset that I've got. So I've got some really interesting some things that I'm trying to develop for myself in terms of learning zones and learning cycles. So first of all, for me, the main objectives of why we coach, or what we be mindful of when coaching these age groups, is understanding the player. First of all, you're coaching a player around the kind of 11, 12, 13 mark. They are possibly going through puberty. They are going through growth spurts. They are going to begin to have injuries. Their body's changing. They're going from one school to the next in terms of leaving their friends. Different friendships are going to happen. They're going to start to discover relationships with, the opposite sex or the same sex. So for me, it's really first and foremost understanding that player, understanding that individual, and then kind of marrying that with what they need to do to become better. Understanding that you're a coach first. So what does that mean? Understand that every player has different needs. Obviously, what I've just mentioned. Understanding that there might be different circumstances indoors. And then more importantly for me, when you come to planning a session, there's kind of, a few points here that I kind of base what my structure, I would say, around my kind of session looks like. And that could be based around the individual or the team session. So ensuring that the session is challenging enough or less challenging. So again, making sure that when you're planning a session, you have obviously a main frame of what your session looks like. But you know, if these kids are, you know, they find it too easy, do you have something in the back pocket that you can transfer to very quickly, or vice versa? If you're putting on a session and the kids are really struggling with it, then how are you going to manipulate that into an easier session? And I'll give you an example of that. Something really simple is if you're doing a little ball mastery session, so you've got 6 players in a square with 2 defenders and they're trying to nick the ball, and if the 2 defenders are finding it really easy to nick the ball from the other 6, then potentially, you know, for me, to make it a bit more harder for the defenders, give them a ball as well. So not only are they kind of obviously looking to defend and nick the ball from another attacking player, but they've also got to master their own ball as well. So they're doing kind of 2 things at once. So again, that's just a quick example of how you'd make the kind of session either less challenging or more challenging. Is the session organised? So in terms of, do you have your cones set out? Using different color cones if you're going to set up 2 kind of sessions at the same time. So you may have a small 2v2, which you'll use green or blue cones, and then you're going to go into a bit more bigger area of a 5v5 or a 7v7, and you may use a different color for that. So once you've completed one section of that, of your session, you can simply say to the kids, hey kids, can you pick up them color cones, leaving obviously the other color cones for your next kind of session. So there's no real stop and start. You're not saying, go on kids, go for a drink, you know, then you're spending 2 or 3 minutes laying down cones. Does the session allow repetition? And that really is, you know, are the kids getting enough chances to do the session? But more importantly, is every kid get an opportunity to do that kind of that technical skill or that tactic part of the session? Is the session game like? Again, I'm scared. I'm not gonna say scared. I'm seeing a lot more focus recently on tactical side of the game now, which is great. But really, you know, the kids want to have fun. They want to be able to play the game based around whatever kind of session you have planned now. So again, you know, can we relate our sessions back to game-like situations? And then really important for me is, and what I've noticed with kids, especially in the USA, is making sure there's that problem-solving element in terms of, you know, are you giving the kids an opportunity to struggle? And again, I'll go into a bit more detail along with this in a few more slides. But you know, making sure that they're put in a position where they have to problem solve, because let's think about it, folks. This, you know, we're here as coaches. We're not only teaching these kids how to play soccer or football, but also how to make decisions off the field as well. So if they can learn something from you from on the field, and they can use that in everyday life around school, you know, being out in the streets, then, you know, for me, that's part of being a coach. Stuart, was it all good? Can you obviously hear me clearly?
Yeah, all good, Dean. Yeah. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll pick them up as we go.
Yeah, so what's the biggest difference in these kind of players in the youth development phase? Well, obviously they're coming out from foundation phase, where for me the kind of emphasis on them sessions in the foundation phase should be a lot more ball mastery, falling in love with the game, really understanding how to master that ball. So now they're leaving that kind of foundation phase on a small-sided scale, and now they're coming up to a different kind of pitch size where there's bigger fields, and obviously they're now beginning to get personalities. As I said, you know, their friendships are changing, they're going to different schools. And what I found around the kind of under 12, under 13 level is these kids will test you, especially the kind of more streetwise kids where you know, they'll test your knowledge, they'll test, you know, what you know, and they might not know the answer, but they're going to come across as they know the answer, and they're going to kind of test you. So again, it's a real challenge, and it's also it keeps you on your toes. So what kind of skills do we need to be a coach at the youth development phase? So I think it's having a balance between the knowledge and what they've previously done in the foundation phase. Um, I think it's providing a support system where, based on the different kind of emphasis that they're going to kind of come up against within them kind of changes, ensuring that you're giving them the knowledge to be able to perform that role within their 11v11. And understanding that obviously their brains are like sponges. So again, you're still they're kind of still hanging on every word that you say. So it's just important that whatever you say has a real meaning and a purpose to it. And then I've just put at the bottom there the kind of attention span. Previously, scientifically, I think it's proven that kids in the phalange phase have a attention span between 3.5 seconds to 7 seconds, and then obviously that attention span grows a little bit further as they come into that kind of youth development phase. So again, it's ensuring that your coaching points, that when you're stopping or talking to a player, are kind of, again, have a purpose to it, have a meaning to it, and it's delivered in a kind of really punctual way. But also you've got a fraction more time in the attention span. So if you have to go into a bit more detail with your coaching points, then so be it.
Dean, can I just ask a question on that?
Absolutely.
So if you're saying the attention span's 10 seconds, how long would you normally stop a session for and deliver some coaching points?
Yeah,
or would
great
you try
questions.
And to coach on the go kind of thing?
Yeah, I think my kind of methodology is, if I'm going to stop a session, as in a team session, then I want to make that as punctual as I can. So even in the youth development phase, I'm still looking to get in and out between that kind of 3.5 to 7 seconds. Anywhere longer than that, I think you begin to lose real purpose of the meaning. If you're talking to an individual where you're letting the game go, and then you're talking to an individual where you might pull them out, I think then, because it's more of a one-to-one personal contact, I think that's where you can spend maybe a few more seconds and really get an understanding of what knowledge they know. So again, I think it really depends on the kind of circumstances that you're working with within that structure.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah.
So we're going to go into a bit more kind of individual in terms of the player development. So first and foremost, again, all sessions should be fun. Obviously, these kids, especially the grassroots level, they're doing it for the love of the game. We have a huge issue here in the USA where we have a lot of dropout under 12, and that's culturally because soccer, football is not the number one sport here. So again, I keep saying to my coaches that I oversee between 8 to 10 coaches here, is you need to make sure that when they get here, when they leave, that they're falling in love with the game. So when it comes to a decision down the road that they have to say, well, am I going to play basketball or American football? That because of the experience they've had with you and what you've done around your kind of sessions and making it fun, that they're automatically going to say soccer or football that they're going to choose. Obviously setting development plans. So again, spoke about earlier about, depending on the age group, you may have 3 plans. And again, do you enhance a skill or do you improve a skill, or vice versa? Do you have 2 where you improve and 1 enhance again? And then talking about marginal gains, reading a book at the minute about the success of the British cycling team, and little things like they would really, within a kind of session or a ride that they go on, they would really have to detail the plan of at what point are they going to practice the short sprints, and how can they marginally, day by day, week by week, just really get the kind of the best out of that person. So again, if you're dealing with top end players, are they going to bed early? Are they eating the right nutrition? If you're talking lower level in terms of grassroots kids, if you're talking about a kid with a left foot, what specific detail do they need to make that left foot as good as they can be? What are you doing on a daily, on a short term and long term basis to make that left foot as good as they can be? And that might be some challenges around the session, or it may be off the field where you say, I want you to hit, during the week, 500 balls against the wall. So again, it's them little marginal gains that I think really add the kind of quality to these kids that we coach.
Dean, Tristan's putting a question around individual development plans. Are you setting each player their own one, or are you making it more generic for a group of players, say? And how
I think
managing that for a grassroots team might be challenging.
Again, great question. I tend to, again, the kind of structure that I have is, I tend to go around to the kids' houses, obviously while the parents are there, and kind of, because first and foremost, I want to understand the structure of what's happening indoors, and you'll be surprised at the kind of the lifestyle of some of these kids, and you'll get a better sense of understanding their kind of their home life. And so I think it's more individual kind of purpose to the kid relationship that you have, and really getting a sense of catering to the kids' needs. I would say if you make it more team based, and again that's fine, and that might be the first thing I said is more time consuming. If you haven't got the time, then obviously you're going to make it more general team based. But I think if you can really get to know a kid and really get to know what their needs are to make them better, then obviously you're really catering the development to that individual.
Yeah, and would that kind of lead on to your next point about setting tasks on match days for them?
Absolutely. So again, this is where I've tried to change the mindset here is, this is why for me, the result of the game can't be the main focus. It had to be development if you're going to go down this individual or team kind of development route, because let's go back to the kid that you're going to practice with the left foot. You may play him on the left back or left midfield for the pure reason is because you want them to use their left foot. Or you might say to them, can you complete three break line passes with your left foot during first half? Now, if the kid's just starting this kind of project, the likelihood of them doing that and being successful is probably very low. So what's that mean? You're going to lose possession of the ball. The other team are probably going to score, so you're going to probably straight away, be putting your team or your individual in a situation where they're probably going to lose. So again, it's coming back to, what your beliefs are, what your purpose is, and also ensuring that your kind of your feedback and your transparency to the players and the parents, saying, listen, this is what I'm trying to achieve. This is the reason why I'm trying to achieve it. And again, if you get buy-in from that, then I think, ultimately down the road, we all know, if that kid keeps using their left foot in 2 or 3 years' time, then they're going to be both-footed.
Yeah, it's kind of a patience game, isn't it? In the development sense, especially on working on your left foot, but also educating the parents about why you're playing them in certain positions to benefit the player rather than the team.
Absolutely. And I think, and that happens at all levels. So we've done this at Arsenal as well. So there's a young lad there called Miles Skelly, who I believe is going to be probably the next best thing coming out of Arsenal. I think he's under 12, under 13 at the minute. He is a phenomenal athlete, very, very good on the ball. But he would pick up the ball in a deeper midfield role, like a number 4, and kind of drive through. But then his end product at the end was, he used to miss a target and the ball used to end up in the corner flag, So we used to, we've got two things we need to work on there. We need to enhance the skill. He's already very good at dribbling and driving with the ball. So we're trying to enhance that to make it even better. But bolted onto the back of that is obviously his end product. So again, we would say to him, when there's an opportunity, and again, you can say when there's opportunity, or you can say, when you get the ball, just drive with it to try and get into situations of the end product. So again, this is not just a kind of grassroots thing. This is kind of the top end as well. And again, how you're managing that. So when I remember in a game against Derby when he was young, he picked up the ball, and I think we ended up losing the game 2-1, but he had 3 chances where he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And again, we want him to get into them situations. We want him to feel and kind of psychologically and technically become better at that. But he walked off the field knowing that he probably lost us the game, and that's fine. And as a coach, coming back to my previous point, is we just need to make sure that we're there to support the young lad, because that could devastate a young lad. They've gone through from a peer pressure point of view. So again, as coaches, we need to manage that kind of that feedback and that and the kind of aftercare, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the positivity is so important on that kind of subject, is identifying what he's doing really well, but keep emphasizing that and keep encouraging him to do that while still trying to get some improvement on the other task.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then the last point is, if you can game feel, because obviously to me, that's reality, that's facts, that's factuals. So when you come back to, a showing a kid or a team the game and you're actually stopping the footage, first of all, that's pretty embarrassing. So again, you need to be careful around that. But also, you're showing facts, you're showing footage. And I think that's, if you can film most of these games and showing where to improve, again, enhancing the skill or improving the skill, and then showing the kind of the detail that you require to make them better, I think that's pretty good. So this is, and again, folks, this is something that I'm doing myself and bringing into my kind of resume of how I'm planning the sessions now. And I would love to hear your feedback on this. I'm currently structuring my kind of sessions around these learning zones. So there's 3 kind of areas that I'm looking to kind of target, and none of them are more important than the other. It really depends on what you're going to do with your group on that day. So first zone is the kind of comfort zone. So again, I've put periodization for all these zones because especially when you kind of work at the top end, they may have played on the Saturday or Sunday, they have a rest day the next day, and then they're in the second day. And again, based around your kind of methodology, is that going to be a session where it's more of a recovery day, or is it going to be more of a flat out day, so you're going to hit 90%, or is it a 30%? So again, I'm going to put periodization for all these zones, but just to give you a bit of context around that kind of that language. So a comfort zone for me would be kind of the level, basing your kind of group on your level of group. This may be a group that is just started to play soccer, so again, really low level kind of grassroots end. So again, you're looking to have some kind of challenge there, but also, so looking around the 7v3s, the 5v2s. So the kind of the team that you're focusing on has a lot more chance to build their confidence, but also have a higher assess rate. The learning zone for me, again, periodization explained. They may be based around parts of the games that need to improve. So this may be more based around kind of unopposed sessions. So you might be working on the kind of goalkeeper rolling out to the right back, plays into number 4, some kind of unopposed passing combination. So again, I would say a little bit more stressful than the comfort zone, but the success would be a medium. And then the last one for me is the panic zone. And this may be based around, kind of your 90% session. So you're kind of midweek with a game on the kind of weekend where, again, it's based around your periodization. It's based around the intensity being high. It's based around the stress applied. And what I mean by stress applied is, you're dealing with a 3v3, or 4v4, or even if the team, the non-focused team or the focused team win the ball, they may have to deal with a 3v4. So they're actually dealing with a kind of an underlying situation. For me, with the panic zone, it has to be time led. So what I mean by that is you may only work for 4 minutes and then give them 30 seconds to recover or to have some kind of debrief around that. Minimal stoppages within that time. So you are working for 4 minutes. You're not going to stop the session too much. Most of your coaching and feedback's going to be in them kind of 30-second breaks. And then obviously we're looking at the kind of success being low. So again, if you're talking about, dealing with you're in a 3 versus a 4, you're going to probably 90% of the time lose possession of the ball or not be successful with that task. And again, what I think is really important here is again, as a coach, how you're going to deal with the kind of failure or the success of that session, So again, if anyone's got any feedback on that, any questions, this is something I'm developing myself as a coach. So I'll be really interested to hear, people's feedback. Obviously, it doesn't have to be now; it can be a little bit further down the road.
Dean, just on that, have you kind of set a percentage of how much of your session or the different zones, how you're going to structure them? So say for the comfort zone, you're going to use for 50% of your sessions, or?
Yeah, great question. Yes and no. Again, I think it comes back then down to the level of the group. So if I'm dealing with a kind of lower end level of a group, then I would probably spend 75% of the time in a comfort zone and then maybe dip their toe in the learning zone. If I'm dealing with there's nothing wrong with doing a comfort zone with a high level team. Again, if they come off the back of maybe a bad loss, or you've got some individual plans that you want to work with, that would be a great opportunity to use the comfort zone to build that confidence around whatever they be. So again, I think it comes down to your purpose of your session and what you're trying to achieve there. Would that be whatever zone you're going to use?
Yeah, great. No, it's definitely something in development, I can tell.
Yeah. So just going to go into a little bit of session design now. I'm going to work with player A. And again, I would love your feedback on this. Anyone's got any questions, please ask. This player needs some support around receiving the ball from defence and either keeping possession or the ability to play forward with a breakline pass. So the model I'm going to use is the kind of USA model. As a practice play. So basically, it's the kind of practice split into 3, where they play, then they practice that technical skill, then they go back to the play. So the idea around that is they kind of arrive for the session, they go straight into some kind of game. You can kind of assess that game and see where the players are at. So you're kind of initially assessing them at what level they are. They obviously do the technical practice of the session, and then they go back into the game where you're hoping potentially to see some kind of improvement. So this is based around an individual. So I'm going to use 16 players. I'm going to split them into 2 groups. And obviously I'm going to be working with player A. So a couple of things to consider while I'm planning. What actual coaching points am I going to use around the kind of players' needs? So I've decided that there's a couple of things that this player A needs to improve, and that is checking their shoulders. For me, they need to understand the 5 principles of that, which is understanding where the ball is, where their teammate is, where the defender is, the space in the goal. So they're always checking to know that kind of understanding. They're really checking to reset the picture. So they're probably checking, between, 2 and 3 seconds. And why? Because the picture keeps changing. Going to work on their body angle prior to receiving the ball. And then again, the problem solving aspect for me is, can the player decide whether to pass the ball, keep possession, and that even maybe go sideways or backwards, or are they going to look to play forward for a breakline pass? So again, something to consider around the planning is coaching style. What type of player am I dealing with? This is a player that needs a bit more, I would say, tougher coaching demand. So are you going to, get on their backs a little bit, or are they a player that's a bit more sensitive that you may need to pull them out from the session and really talk to them about about the technical detail that you're trying to work with. Do I have a relationship with that player in terms of do they trust me? And again, if they don't trust you and you can sense that, we all know that, how are you going to use this session to really build that player's relationship? And then there's obviously kind of the overview is the kind of three elements of the session is the session design, what coaching points I'm going to use, and then questions. So again, you're testing the knowledge, and that may be to the back end of the session. So just to start off with, this is the play, so the first part of it. So it's obviously looks like a little 4v4. So I'd have two of these running. They'll give you the 16 players. So I'm going to try and put A in a position where they're playing in midfield. And obviously they're looking to receive the ball from, two centre-backs. And again, I've structured it around a 2-1-1. And again, I think what's important this is that, again, you can, going back to the learning zones, you can say, okay, A is going to receive the ball, but they're playing against two midfielders, so straight away they're in an overload. Or you may change the formation of the Reds to put them more in a comfort zone where you may say, okay, they're going to play a box where, obviously the player A can receive it with hardly no pressure around them. So again, it's based around that learning skills. But initially, this was just a part of the session where you allow the kind of kids to turn up, let go of frustrations. They've been sitting indoors all day on Zoom call, but secondly, just let them play and assessing really, what player A is about and kind of understanding what level they're at. So again, going into a bit more of a session design. So now I'm working on player A receiving the ball under a bit more pressure. So it's I'd say more of a possession drill or session, should I say. And it's more, they have to deal with the pressure of the 1v1. And that may, again, come back to making the practice more challenging by allowing this back player here to join in to make it a 1v2. Or I may say, well, okay, this player, I might play another area in and say, okay, to make it less challenging, you can only go and press a player once the ball comes in there. And again, working around the kind of technical and tactical aspects of what I'm looking for around my coaching points. So again, checking the shoulders, the body angle, and then the kind of problem solving around receiving the ball or playing forward or bouncing it off the 4 and the 5, the two centre backs to find another angle to play through. So, and then again, the kind of last play for me is going into the 8v8, or you can go back into the 4v4, whatever you choose to do. But again, putting in A in a position where they're going to play midfield, they're going to obviously be a center point to your practice, looking around the kind of structure of the Reds. So again, you can play 3 or 4 at the back and just leave 2 in there. Again, based around them kind of comfort zones again, the learning zones, I would say. And really working on the emphasis of, what your coaching points will be. So things to consider after the session. How affecting this as the centre been to help the A. And what I mean by that is, obviously, if we go back to the middle part here, if the two centre backs are just playing the ball into A aimlessly, so they're just simply just passing the ball, again, that's fine. But how can the two centre backs help A with when they're going to release the ball in there? Are they giving A the detail to allow them to play forward? Are they bouncing the ball into with the correct detail to say, okay, you can now dribble the ball? Or is it going into safe side? Because I understand they can see the picture, what's behind them, where maybe they bounce the ball into the A and it bounces out to this side and they can play in. So again, going back to, linking players up now. And again, you may not be in a position to do that. And that, that again, you may need some work around the centre back that. But again, how can the centre back help player A to become better at that specific task? Building a relationship up between the positions, as I spoke about. How does player A link up with the centre backs or the number 10 or the centre forwards? Getting the players to self-reflect. I think we, as coaches, and this is something definitely that I need to add more to my game is getting the players to self-reflect. Now, what you don't particularly want to happen is they get in the car and mum and dad kind of speaks to them and say, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. I think it's important that when they leave you, they're already in the mindset, they're in the car, is they self-reflect in terms of, you know, what went well, what can they improve, and what would they do different. Because I think if a player can start to understand and develop that as a mindset, then again, not only will they be probably better soccer players because they'll understand the purpose and the why, but secondly, we're going back to everyday life. You know, if they make a mistake at school or in their work down the road, then, you know, you certainly want them to reflect in the decisions that they make. And then more importantly, you know, I as a coach, or we as the coach, must reflect as well. So again, the only way we're going to get better is if we self-reflect in terms of what went well, what to improve, and what would I change for next time. That's it.
Great, Dean. Very enjoyable, that, and hopefully the coaches have took a lot away from everything that you've presented on. We're going to run through some questions now. I think the first one we got is from, I think it was Tristan. Yeah. So how do the coaching qualifications compare from the US to the UK?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the US model there. I didn't realize how big, as we spoke about this last night, Stuart, I didn't realize how big USA was. So I think that they need to establish an identity here in terms of the way they're going to play. I know England set up have got like an England DNA, and I think that's working, and we're seeing the results of that. That's been over many years, but I really enjoyed the course. I thought it was fantastically delivered. I thought it was very much in line with the kind of the England model. The facilities here are fantastic. They've got kind of 3 main hubs here where we go and visit. Unfortunately, I went to the Kansas City one, was pretty cold, but they got one on the West Coast and then one in Florida. So, no, I really enjoyed it. And what I liked about it, and again, maybe they do this in England now, but I didn't when I done my UEFA A or UEFA B, is when you're doing the kind of the sessions, they want you to concentrate on a non-focused team first. Because if you say your focused team is playing out from the back, obviously you're trying to make them better at playing out from the back. But for them to be improved that skill set, you're going to have to make sure the team they're playing against is not allowing them to play it from the back. So what I mean by that is you know, you're going to concentrate your first part of the session to make sure that the non-focused team is doing whatever they can to stop your focus team from achieving whatever your coaching topic may be. So again, I thought that was really, really refreshing, because when you actually think about it, when you think about your sessions, we probably don't do that enough. We probably just, you know, we going back to player A in my presentation, the other team are just allowing player A to do it. You know, okay, he's getting success, but under a kind of false kind of challenge.
Kind of linked to that question, would you recommend going to coach abroad if you can? Has it developed you as a coach?
100%. Yeah, and guys, if you do have an opportunity, you know, really consider it. Obviously, I'm married. I've got 2 kids, so we had to kind of drag everyone across. But I've learned more in the 2.5 years, 3 years that I've been here than I have at any of these clubs that I've been at. And it's because it's just a
Dean, you've gone on mute for some reason.
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, no, 100%. Yeah, if you get the opportunity to develop your own personal skills around a different culture, yeah, it would definitely 100% develop you as a person.
And kind of linked to the US-UK comparison, what's the expectations from the parents? I know you mentioned it's very heavily focused on winning?
Yeah, I think they are very much focused on winning. I think the big thing with USA is again, we spoke about yesterday, it's seen more as a business here. So there's the price of playing here is pretty expensive. So we're a club that charges $2,000. I mean, you probably fall off your chair, but we're one of the cheaper ones. There's some clubs in the area that charge anything between three and $4,500 per kid. So, so they want results. They want to see the development of the kids. So there's a lot more stress put on, the development side, especially in my club. But unfortunately, there is an emphasis here that, they pay this money and they want to see results. So they want to make sure their team is top of the league. But, as we all know, so, if I win a game every week 2-1, that doesn't tell me that my kids are getting any better, So again, it's just understanding, again, the kind of culture that you work
in. Yeah. And what would you say the difference is between the kids from the UK and the US? And how have you had to adapt your way of coaching for that?
Yeah, so obviously back in England, soccer, football is the holy grail. There's nothing really that compares to it. It's on the TV constantly in England. Here, obviously they show all the games for free, which is great, but a lot of the games are in the morning, so they're like 6:30 in the morning. Soccer, football is not the number one sport in the world here. It's probably American football, baseball, probably basketball. So soccer, football is probably number 4 on the list. So again, as I mentioned before, you just to make sure the kids enjoy it, they're getting a lot from it, and that down the line they choose soccer, football as an avenue because of the experiences that you've obviously provided. So, so culturally, the kids here are just obstructed away from soccer, and I think the difference between here and England is that there's a lot more emphasis on kids playing more soccer, football in the streets. So a lot of the kids in England, used to walk over the park. There's constantly kids playing football in the park. Here, you don't see that. They're a lot more prone to going to play American football or baseball over the park. So again, it's just the culture. Unfortunately, soccer is so young here. So it's really working hard to make sure that you're providing the best experience as possible.
Yeah. And kind of a final question to kind of link together is, have you got a playing style set for you? I'm not sure if you've got a first team there, D. Or do you kind of leave that yourselves? And are you teaching different systems, or I guess different formations on rotation, or are you set on your way with the formation you play?
Great question. I think it's vitally important that these kids get to learn to play every system, because the ultimate truth is, and there's a couple of things. Firstly, you don't know where this kid's going to end up playing. They go to a university or a first team LNS team, and that team plays 4-4-2, and you've just purely practiced a 3-5-2. Again, them two systems are totally different. So for me, and that comes back to coaching, developing an individual or a team, they have to experience different positions. They have to, in my opinion, they have to experience every position, every system possible. Now, does that change your purpose of how you coach them sessions? Yeah, again, it comes more challenging for you because now you have to expand your knowledge and you expand the kids' development skills to what you're trying to teach them. So, and again, I'll come back to the individual plan. If you're working with player A, as I described, and you want them to be, in a panic zone where they're going to receive the ball from the centre back, ideally you don't really want them to be near another player on the same team so they can just offload the ball quickly. You maybe want to put them in a 4-4-3 and play that player as a centre player, because if you can get the other two kind of midfielders to play a little bit wider, now all of a sudden player A kind of has to keep hold of the ball. Now they're looking to play the ball forward or to dribble. So again, there's a couple of things to be mindful of around that. And again, it just comes back to the coach and what knowledge they have to really ensure that they're giving every kid they can the every tool possible to play in any system.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Really appreciate your time tonight and sharing your knowledge and kind of your thoughts with the group of coaches. I've definitely took away something from it, especially on the learning zones. I think that's a great way of looking how you can challenge and progress sessions, but also make it easier for the players who are not at the ability that they can be stressed enough times. If you also, I think Dean would be willing to, if you've got any more questions after you go away, I'm sure Dean will be willing to answer them. So if you have got any questions, feel free to contact us on the socials, or the email is info@footballdna.co.uk. Hopefully the recording's gone well. We'll try and get that online for you next week so you can rewatch and pick up on any of the points. Dean, have you got anything to say and kind of to wrap it up?
No, absolutely. Thanks for your time, Stuart. I really appreciate it. Guys, seriously, if you need to contact me, I'm on LinkedIn. I think that's probably my best route to get hold of me. Or my email is deanhardingcoaching@gmail.com. So again, I'm absolutely here to not only to provide help, but also to learn from others. So please, any feedback for today's event, I'll be really interested to know. But thanks a lot, Stuart. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Dean. And like I said at the start, we're trying to run 1 or 2 a week. So keep your eyes on the socials, and also we'll get emails out to you for the upcoming events. Any feedback on tonight would be great, especially if you can share it on social media as well. That would be fantastic. Thanks all for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.